Hello and good morning. It is your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, and today's date is Friday, December 12th, 2025. The time is 11:52 a.m. and I'm in Doral, Florida. The topic of today's lecture is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Experiential Postulations Part III, the height of velocity. And before I begin, ladies and gentlemen, as with all of my lectures, I tend to do them outdoors. So I may have to project or raise my voice from time to time in order to drown out the background noise. Please adjust your volumes accordingly. And thank you for tuning in. I value all my listeners, all my viewers, all my readers. Because in many respects, you are seeking validity, seeking the truth, seeking the benefits that the truth can yield to you and your families and your loved ones. And I believe that getting the word out about clandestine gang stalking, raising awareness of clandestine gang stalking, and accurately describing its components. All of these things are important. All of these things are important. And there are many components to this scourge, as I call it. And the remarkable thing about it is there are persons out there who still have never heard of gang stalking but participate in it, thinking that it's some covert, fraternal entity or organism that they're able to participate in under the radar or off the grid. But it is none of those things. It is a biohazardous, hostile, violent, deleterious, degenerate, social engineering product that has persisted in various capacities for 65 years. It's just become more bold in its operation over the past 15 years, to where a person like myself can just look out of their window, look out of their bedroom window, or look out of a car window, or look out of a bus window, or essentially go anywhere in the American Union and see it and feel it and experience it in its raw form, in its in all of its glory, as it were. I'm a political dissident, and I have been for 10 years now. And I would like to see America get back on track. Because if it doesn't get back on track, I'm going to be forced to defect to another country or seek citizenship in another country. any country that would have me, rather, not all applications for citizenship are approved. And yes, it's a gamble, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not quite sure whether or not gang stalking exists in other countries. I have been on forums and various community based or local forums and heard people who claimed to live in other countries and that are experiencing the same types of synchronous disruption mechanisms that are present here in the United States. And I'm not going to name those other countries because I've never been there and I've never observed gang stalking in any other country. So I'm not going to comment on whether or not gang stalking exists in other countries. It would be a gamble for me. But I do know this. At some point in my human trajectory through this world, as a citizen of the United States of America, my image, my likeness, my name, my vital statistics were all made to be a thing to be reviled. And that's okay. Human beings are inherently flawed creatures, and inherently they make decisions with respect to many socio-political or sociological aspects of their lives that are not only lackluster in their conception, but are dangerous to themselves and the rest of society. So persons who operate by such a creed, by such a mechanism, by such an auspice as clandestine gang stalking, are essentially giving in to their flawed nature which is in and of itself low. A person must learn to be noble. A person must learn to be upright. A person must learn to be productive, effective, efficient, fortuitous, vigilant, communicative, analytical, logical, creative, innovative. These are things that humans, these traits that I've just named are traits that humans have had to develop through technology and civilization over the past 2 million years. It's taken the human race 2 million years to get to a point where they're civil towards each other, towards society, towards the gods that they worship. And even 2 million years after the first humans appeared on the earth, they're still participating in things like clandestine gang stalking and other mechanisms that are destructive, prideful, and embarrassingly low class for the human race. And it's done using state or governmental resources, which means that the human family also has flawed governments, with flawed policies and ideas, not only on human nature, but on how to keep the human race safe. And persons like myself, who have always kept a close eye on politics, news, world affairs, international relations, national security matters, theology, philosophical insights, and the path that humans have traveled as a holistic species over the past 2 million years. You think the human race would have learned a bit quicker that evil only begets evil, and that evil is eventually rooted out by justice, regardless of the source of that justice, and regardless of who brings the justice. All right, I imagine there are some establishment figures that say, how come this information couldn't come from a rosy-cheeked Americano boy? Why's it got to come from this guy? Why is it that he has all the insights? It's because I'm observant. And I'm the one watching the action. I'm the one involved in the action. The action involves me. I've seen the action for 30 years total, and in heightened levels over the past 10 years. So, you know, when a guy runs into something like clandestine gang stalking, which is essentially it's anti-human in its operation. It's totally and completely anti-human. It's a program that uses humans as weapons against other humans. And it's totally mischievous in nature. It has no noble qualities. And it's quite frankly a disgusting and degenerate program that future generations are going to look back on, and they're going to look down on it. They're going to say, how could a world power like the United States have ever allowed such a menace, such a sociological catastrophe to take root in its borders? How is that possible? It's possible because human beings have qualities that are tantamount to hubris, which is essentially a form of pride in which persons conduct themselves and go about themselves as if they themselves created the universe. Humans didn't create the universe. A creator created the universe, even if it was through a series of explosions that are tantamount to the Big Bang Theory. A creator created the universe using divine or extremely sophisticated alchemical processes. And it's not really to say that humans have been left here alone to fend for themselves amidst all this sickness and disease and violence and warfare and hate, inadequacy, libel, slander, and character defamation. And corruption. All right, humans have a lot to work on, and so do governments, and time is running out, quite frankly. I mean, just think of it. Humans have essentially an eternal capacity, an endless capacity, a limitless capacity to cause destruction. Okay, when humans become self-aware and they look around them and see that there are other humans, their first reaction is to either subjugate or destroy the other humans. That's in human nature. The only way humans can possibly overcome this flaw is by seeking sociological and political policies that value the greater good. And until that day happens, human beings, being a finite and frail creature, will eventually destroy themselves. So, having said that, we're going to get into the lecture today. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Experiential Postulations Part III, the height of velocity. I would like to begin this lecture, as I have the other two, by wishing well the Latter-day Saint families that I fellowshipped with in various capacities in my 2.5-year stay at the Beaver Creek and Kettering, Ohio congregations, or wards as they're referred to. A lot of these families, a lot of these persons, these individuals, these Latter-day Saints, the ones I fellowshipped with, treated me like family, and I felt genuinely appreciated, loved, and invested in. I believe that there were a number of families that were genuinely and personally and spiritually invested in my membership and in my personal and spiritual growth as a Latter-day Saint. Now, I was never able to quite repay these people because, again, as a new convert to the church and as someone who at the time was living off of a stipend from my late grandfather and going to college at University of Dayton and Wright State University prior to that, I was essentially a project in many respects, and I think everyone involved wanted my project to be successful. Now, I'm going to say this as well, though. Despite the love and admiration I still have for a lot of the families that I fellowshipped with, a lot of the families that invited me into their homes, the families that were invested in me and so forth, not everyone was a fan, but that's simply the nature of humans, human thought, human proclivities, human inclinations. No one is universally liked by everyone. Even allegorical figures, like Jesus Christ, for example, who, according to historical evidence, may or may not have existed. The only evidence we have of Christ's existence at length is in the Holy Bible, which gives a beautiful flowing narrative about a period of time corresponding to 4100 BC to AD 100. So about 4,200 years of history take place in the Holy Bible. And in this Bible, there's a figure named Jesus Christ who came to earth in human form, being the Son of God, with a mission of mercy and salvation for humankind. And upon leaving this earth, Christ left behind a set of guidelines so that a person could reach the highest plateau of spirituality and glory, now and in the hereafter. So, even such a benevolent figure as Christ is disliked by some people. For example, Ragnar Redbeard, the author of Might is Right, a book that essentially advocates psychological hedonism, consequentialism, and pseudo-anarchy in favor of the strong. He referred to Jesus Christ as a slave and as a straw man or a scarecrow, a man of no brains or brawn, a man with no spine, a squishy man, and a man that advised his followers and his disciples to be weak. Ragnar Redbeard was not the first man to say that about Jesus Christ. There are a lot of authors and innovators and creators and so forth that see Jesus Christ in those same perspectives, and that his candidacy as a God is no good. But I think Jesus Christ was a mediator to the good God and acted in a humble, benevolent, sacrificing way to allow anyone to become closer to their Heavenly Father through good works. So, I do believe that there are some things that Christ said that are not applicable to today's people. For example, turn the other cheek. I know that that is a parable and an allegorical mystery phrase that simply meant to be forgiving, but it was put as, if somebody harms you, turn your head so they can harm you again. That's bad thinking. All right, especially for a creature like a human that has fragility and vulnerability inherently. Okay, people are inherently vulnerable. So, for a God or deity to essentially tell people, let others trample on you, that's a horrible, horrible insight. And writers like Ragnar Redbeard drew parallels between such thinking and the end of humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, having said that, you may come to the realization that my religious beliefs have morphed, particularly over the past 10 years. And frankly, I don't have any personal animus towards anyone in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints beyond the animus that I have for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that have participated in clandestine gang stalking, particularly against my person. It is a rigged contest. I don't want no part of a rigged contest. Okay? Imagine being in a championship hockey game and one team goes into the hockey game knowing that the referees were paid off to favor their opponents. Gang stalking is a rigged contest. It's designed to look like Party A versus Party B in a fair match. But it's not Party A versus Party B in a fair match. Gang stalkers, all right, yes, they're the enemies of whoever they're signaled to be enemies of. And they're typically signaled to be enemies of targeted individuals like myself. So, given that the gang stalkers are state protected and state sanctioned, all right, state directed and state guided, state assisted, and targeted individuals are not, then that's essentially the government versus the people. Is that a fair contest? No. All right, now let me get to the meat of the matter. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a big organization. It's an international conglomerate with a presence in 200 countries. The church has 200 years of history under its belt, and it is also an institution with a net worth in the trillions. It has a lot of members in the Departments of Defense and Justice. It has a lot of members in law. It has a lot of members in governmental affairs. It has a lot of members in the sciences. It has a lot of members that teach middle school, high school, and college. It has a lot of members that are entrepreneurs. It has a lot of members that are corporate executives. It has a lot of members in engineering. It has a lot of members in aerospace and defense. It has a lot of members that work in the military-industrial complex. It's got a lot of members that work in architecture and civil engineering. It's got a lot of members that work in various industries that are considered high class, right, in terms of their prestige and their pay and their benefits. All right, these occupations are status symbols. And a lot of members of the church occupy these jobs because they're taught from birth to value increase. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the church has, in recent years, become a victim of its own hubris. I, your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, would tell you otherwise if it were any different. The church has become prey to its own pride. It's so prideful, in fact, that it refuses to talk about clandestine gang stalking from the pulpit, and it refuses to acknowledge the realization that Satan, the former glorified archangel of the cosmos, after having been doomed to an eternity in the material world, used sophisticated processes, technology, and concoctions to clone himself several hundred millions of times and spread out throughout the universe and planet Earth, so that in the last day, which is called Judgment Day, God the Father wouldn't know which Satan to throw into the lake of fire. Okay? These two truths are going to hinder the progress of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as an international conglomerate and as a theological entity. Because of hubris, pride. Okay? I call on the corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints this day, in the name of all your gods, to preach the eternal truth. Not only of gang stalking, but of Satan to your congregations. I charge thee in the name of your Creator to be honest and forthright with your people. Ladies and gentlemen, intimidation is a tactic that a person, a company, a church, or a government uses against other people, companies, churches, or governments to achieve a desired result. It's like this, ladies and gentlemen. When governments err, when governments mess up, when governments are negligent, it's the people that pay the price. Gang stalking is one such example of a government screw-up that has cost the people. Some might say, well, Mr. Smith, you were a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 2.5 years. What made you reside after 2.5 years of being a baptized, temple-going Mormon? Clandestine gang stalking showed its ugly face. And I left the church, plain and simple. Now I need to address a number of members that I've seen over the past 6 months in Miami-Dade County. I've seen you and I've seen your representatives. And it's from a lot of different wards. It's not just Beaver Creek and Kettering, it's a lot of wards. Okay, I guess I'll refer to you as stray Mormons. You've shown yourself to be incredibly deleterious and idiotic in your operation. You didn't think I'd see you, but I did. My significant other Lori has seen you as well. Although she doesn't know that you're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I do. And I have not told her that it is you as of yet because I don't want her to be anxious or fretful or scared. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are typically committed and loyal, dutiful and respectful, reverent and courteous. But you have those members that want to abandon Christ and his teachings in favor of the teachings of useful idiot gang stalkers. So does that make members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that participate in gang stalking useful idiots? Yes. And I'm not going to be muscled around by any of the members that are in the military or any governmental auxiliary at all. And neither is my significant other, Lori. I, in particular, am steadfast in my opposition to clandestine gang stalking. I mean, just think of it. Think of what it is for anyone who calls themselves a Christian to participate in a signaling mechanism that is tantamount to domestic terrorism in its operation. And then go to Sunday with a Bible and a Book of Mormon the very next day. What, did you think that because no one was calling you out that it was the work of God? Did you think that Christ endorsed this behavior because you had priesthood holders participating in it? How dare you come to Miami-Dade, Florida in the name of Christ with a mission of sabotage and disruption, espionage and malfeasance, violence and hostility. How dare you, in the name of the Creator, come to me with such foolishness? You must heed the words of wisdom, the words of theological insight, and the words of spirituality that come from those who know. Then you as a church can be on the path to reconciling your relationship with your Lord and Savior and your Creator. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is an international political structure. It has a presence in 201 countries around the world. And it has vast political, finance, military, and espionage connections. And if you ask me, you say, well, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, what is an espionage connection? The church has access to untold numbers of private investigators, law enforcers, military personnel, intelligence agents, many of which are actual members of the damn church. All right, now I'm a nice person. I'm a kind, caring, loving, and considerate man. But I have a capacity to hold a grudge against persons, companies, institutions, and governments that ignore my civil rights and constitutional rights. I mean, just think of it what it is to call yourself a church or a holy ground or a committed servant of the Lord Jesus Christ, and you use a state-sanctioned personnel mobilization mechanism that allows you not only to spy on people, but actually take an active role in the disruption of that person's life. And then you go to Sunday school the next day with a Bible and a Book of Mormon. All right, now all the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that participate in clandestine gang stalking, you know exactly who you are. And no, it's not all the members, but it's quite a few of them. How many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints commit atrocious acts in the name of their God? Like I say, ladies and gentlemen, human depravity is a bottomless pit. There's no limit to the depths that a person will sink to satisfy his or her desires. It's disgusting. And the only way to lift yourself out of that mud pit, that dung hole, that trash heap, is to seek a higher ideal. It's impossible to seek a higher ideal, ladies and gentlemen, when the very church that dominates your life has instructed you in the name of the great God to commit every atrocious act imaginable. And it isn't just atrocities being committed. It's crimes against humanity, and yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is complicit in that at the political level. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, what this spells is disaster. Disaster for Christianity, disaster for the Constitution of the United States, and disaster for civil society. that a church which is supposed to be the Holy of Holies, has decided to participate in a clandestine thuggery module and allow its members, in the name of Jesus Christ, to spy on, disrupt, harm, manipulate, and degrade sovereign United States citizens. Some people in the church may say, you know, it would have been better if Emmanuel Isaiah Smith had never joined this church. Well, damn right. For you, it would have been better for you because it was a blessing for me. And the reason it was a blessing for me is because I was able to draw strength to fight gang stalking from the members that treated me like family. Now, yes, I realize that the statement that I just made may resonate with some more than others. But here's the discipline to talking about this matter as it pertains to me personally. A good many of the members provided for me a blissful, joyful, and paradisical experience that I draw from and gather energy from. Even to this day, all these years later. But there are some of the members who have taken offense to me in my work. They've taken offense to me resigning from the church, and they take offense to my work. And they're creating all these false narratives about me. They're spying on me. They're attempting to attack me using the clandestine gang stalking mechanism. Which is something you can plug into. Where's that Smith boy at? Let me Google his name. I still have his baptism papers here. We know his full name. We're going to grab his full name off his baptism papers. We don't know his exact precise location as of right now. We did some research and saw that he was no longer attending the University of Dayton and didn't graduate from there. One of the church members donated $20 in tithing money to the church so that we could open up a BeenVerified.com account so we could enter his first, middle, and last name that we got off his baptism papers into the search bar at BeenVerified.com and find out just where the hell is he. We're sitting here looking at his baptism papers, and we got his first, middle, and last name and the correct spelling. And we're going to use them baptism papers and all the information on it to find out everything we need to know about him, in case he tries to start a ruckus with this church. Why? Because we need to know everything he's doing. That man was peculiar, and he caused a lot of grief in this church, and we ain't going to let it slide. Is what the decision-making councils in the church will say. There are Mormon employees. Yes, some of the members actually get paid for their work. Only, not many of them, not all of them, but some of them. They get paid for their work. Only some of them now. Only the ones that work in corporate offices. That work in the corporate offices of the church, they get paid. And I know some of them are listening right now. They're holding excommunication hearings on me right now as I speak. That's the point. Party A contacted Party B. Party B contacted Party C. Party C contacted Party D. Party D contacted Party E. And Party E contacted Party F. So that these excommunication hearings could take place at the same exact time that I'm doing this lecture for you. There are spies from the church listening to me right now on very sophisticated, very expensive surveillance equipment that it probably got through the Departments of Defense or Justice, which are two organizations that are not totally corrupt. It's just that I believe that a few of the active participants in them participate in clandestine gang stalking. I do semi-law enforcement work myself. I am not opposed to military or law enforcement activity. But I invoke my First Amendment right to the United States Constitution, namely my right to free speech, to say what I'm saying about America, about the Mormon Church, about gang stalking. And anyone that calls themselves a believer in Jesus Christ who participates in the thuggish elements of gang stalking, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, and you can go straight to hell. I would like to use the next 5 or so minutes to talk about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' role in developments in Cuba. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as a private enterprise, has been given unprecedented access to the Cuban state, given that this church was founded in the United States of America in the year 1830. Cuba was designated as a terrorist organization, as a terrorist state, as a state sponsor of terrorism, human trafficking, and cartel activity last month by Mike Walls, the U.S.'s ambassador to the United Nations. And he said this in front of a 100-member UN panel. Ladies and gentlemen, the church has unprecedented access to Cuban governmental workings. And since the Cuban government is designated as a state sponsor of terrorism, the church has an obligation to come forward with any knowledge it has on Cuban governmental operations with respect to terrorism. If it doesn't, then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as an entity is complicit in terrorism. Thank you for listening.